An oldie but goodie. I know some of you like that flashback. That was the podcast intro for UFO Buster Radio for over 2 years, maybe 3 years. In the beginning, we kind of played around with stuff, but then they started giving us copyright gimmick infringement notices. So we couldn't use some of the stuff. So, had to pay an artiste, a musician out of South America, in order to create that intro. And there you go. There it is. If you hear it, someone playing it on their podcast, they're thieves. Thieves, I tell you. Send them a nasty gram. Unsubscribe. That's a UFO Buster Radio original. This is episode 315. I am Manny Moonraker, and I was sitting around before getting ready to do this podcast, and I was like, the people, they need something different. They need to get ready for new sounds today. Because I was thinking, the other day I had some cool little Christmas songs on there, but it's too early for that. It's only December 10th. We got like 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks, so I'm not going to jump the gun anymore. But then I said, you guys need something that you haven't heard as of late, at least. Because some of you might have, some of you might not. But you need a different sound. I picked 2 songs, which are basically things that I have not played before on this podcast. A different genre, if you will. But I think you'll enjoy it anyway. So please, don't send me any hate emails if it's not your thing. Just fast forward if you have to. I mean, some of these podcast apps have the little 30-second jump. Press it a few fucking times. You'll get there. And, 30 seconds seems to be a lot for some people because they complained for the longest time that the intro was too long because it was like 35 seconds. A lot of people are trying to pinch a log when they listen to the intro anyway, so come on. Chances are you were still trying to pinch it 5 minutes into the damn podcast. Not my fault. Eat more fiber. Today's news reports, one from space and one from Canada, Manitoba, university, that is. This particular story was brought to my attention earlier today. It turns out that the actual initial article was, I saw someone reported this back in like October or something like that. But these little publications, they go around and start picking up the news. So one of them, I think it was Vice.com, printed it today. But it's something to talk about because it's a UFO incident. I can't say, I guess I could say it would be a legacy incident. We can categorize this one as a legacy incident. But there was evidence in this. Evidence that's important to the conversation, at least for the first fucking 10 years after it happened. Right now, it don't mean dick to anybody. But the University of Manitoba, they've got their mitts on something that a lot of people wish they had in other UFO incidents. Critical, tangible stuff. Before we get into that, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at UFO Buster Radio, on Instagram at Manny Moonraker, and on Facebook, the Facebook page UFO Buster Radio, and the group known as UBR Truth Seekers. Get in there, join the fun, chat away, share what you find, because I'm sure someone in that group would be interested in what you have to share. True story. So we're going to play a quick little song before we get into the first news article, because this podcast is bad for me. It really is.
like he's attached to me. So what's standing in our way? Yeah, he's got such power over me, but I try to act cool about it. But what's standing in our way? He doesn't mind at all. He want my juice like he does whatever what he feels for nobody but himself. No, yeah. He doesn't mind at all. He want my juice like he does whatever what he feels for nobody but himself. No, yeah. Pull myself together to not give myself the pressure. I don't know what to do with this. Should I let him go? Oh, go, go. I don't know what to do with this. Should I let him go? Oh, go, go. I fall for his eyes when he's staring into mine. Know he's bad for me. So what's standing in our way? And he's out of my league. I feel insecure, but I hope this is real, yeah. He doesn't mind at all. He want my juice like he does whatever what he feels for nobody but himself, no, yeah. He doesn't mind at all. He want my juice like he does whatever what he feels for nobody but himself, no, yeah. So I pull myself together to not give myself the pressure. I don't know what to do with this. Should I let him go? Oh, go, go. I don't know what to do with this. Should I let him go? Oh, go, go. I don't know what to do with this. Should I let him go? Oh, go, go. I don't know what to do with this. Should I let him go? Oh, go, go.
Eventually I'm going to have to change that intro to the news portion of the podcast because it doesn't justify what I'm about to share with you. The knowledge I'm about to bestow on you guys, the two youths who don't have time to look this stuff up because you've got busy lives and stuff. I get it. Today's first article has to do with the Falcon Lake UFO files, which the University of Manitoba has got their hands on. Here's what the incident was. May 20th of 1967. It happened to Stefan Michalak. What if I say that with an accent? It would probably sound a lot better. Stefan was an amateur geologist who liked to prospect in the wilderness around Falcon Lake. Yeah, check that out. Isn't that exciting? It's a ball of fun. I'll tell you. I bet you that guy was just a regular old hoot around them quartz and shit. Apparently he was out there examining a quartz vein about noon that day, the middle of the fucking day. He's out there in the woods, checking out the quartz. And for some reason, the geese got startled, and all of a sudden they were agitated. They were like, let's get the fuck up out of here. Yeah, so apparently something ominous, if you will, something threatening, had the geese get the fuck out of town. They got out of the wilderness, they left. Stefan kind of sat there, watch the geese fly away? You guys in Canada, and actually anywhere else, when the damn wilderness animals get the fuck out of Dodge, so should you. Yeah, take that into account. When the wild animals don't even want to stick around, there's a major probing coming. You should probably leave as well, because you're probably not as tough as half of those fuckers that are running for their lives. Even the fucking geese. Because, 2 or 3 geese, they'll fuck somebody up. I'm telling you. Or something. Stefan said that basically he looked up and what he saw was 2 saucer-shaped flying objects, UFOs now, overhead, one of them which descended and appeared to land about 45 meters away from his position. This is error number 2 for Stefan. It's coming up right now. Because if the geese didn't tell you to get the hell out of there, and the fact that you got 2 flying saucers, flying overhead like you ain't shit, probably is another indication that Stefan should have just packed his happy ass up and gotten the fuck out the wilderness. But here's the next mistake. Stefan, he decided to spend the next half hour sketching the objects, and then he got brave enough to walk towards it. Whew. I mean, you are an amateur geologist, not ufologist. You study rocks, not UFOs. But by the way, the article that's linked in the description, you will be able to see what he sketched. Pretty nifty. As he walked towards it, the object took off suddenly, and a blast of hot gas actually burned Stefan in the process. I'm sure that was a twofold, right? Because once that thing started to take off, I'm sure Stefan had his own gas that he had to contend with. So he was burned when this thing took off. It turns out that radioactive debris was found at the site by the military and RCMP investigations. Neither the investigators nor the Canadian forces were able to explain the events. What makes this case so fascinating is that if you've already clicked on this link to this article, you'd see that there's a picture of Stefan holding up his shirt and showing the burns. Quartz probably would not do that. Not at all. Not at all. Unless you were like laying under it, under the full day sun, and you were drunk, and you were at the right distance from the quartz to where you'd get burned from that highly concentrated solar energy. I'm just talking shit because I'm trying to make an excuse here. And here's the deal. Chris Rutkowski, he is a Canadian ufologist, and he actually gave a talk back on November 7th at the Archives and Special Collections. And he was joined by Stefan's son, Stefan Michalak. At the time of the incident, Stan was 9. And for the first time ever, they actually displayed Stefan's shirt and hat, which were burned during the event, in a public display. All of this really was to let you know that this is a real thing. Like the last 3.5 years, this talk about UFOs has been phenomenal, spreading like wildfire. But still, a major part of the population of the world still is in disbelief, denial, like a river in Egypt, and just does not want to accept that there's an issue here. Something's going on. the presentation and the items, especially those from Stefan's incident, were actually donated to the University of Manitoba Archives and Special Collections. And along with that, also his extensive collection of files on UFO cases. This particular one we're talking about here at the lake, but also incidents all across Canada. Again, you hardly ever hear about a lot of Canadian UFO incidents. And maybe it's because they're not being shared properly. The wealth of information that was going to be archived with the University of Manitoba were a total of 20,000 separate UFO reports filed with various agencies since 1989. Almost 10,000 Canadian government UFO documents, plus more than 1,000 books, which all were part of Rakowski's personal library on the phenomena. That's a lot of fucking sightings since 1989. 20,000 just in Canada alone. Stan's artifacts of that day, like I said, they're important, right? They were probably way more important when the incident happened, up to like maybe 5-10 years after that. You know, at this point, it is 2019 going on 2020, and, my inklings to say I don't give two fucks about it. And I really don't. And, this is what someone else is going to be saying in about 10 years about the Tic Tac situation, the FLIR video, the Nimitz incident. Someone else is going to be talking about that in about 10, 15 years, saying the same thing. You don't give two flying fucks. They didn't do anything about it when it happened. Why should we care today? So I think it's cool. The University of Manitoba has got themselves a cool little UFO collection to show its students, which may or may not be high on weed. But either way, they can trip around UFO artifacts and things like that and really have a good space cadet reaction to it. Alright? But it's okay. It is okay. Check out the link in the description. There's more to it. You see sketches. You see actual pictures of the artifacts. Pictures of Mr. Michalak when it happened way back when. You see all the red burns on his stomach area. I mean, it's crazy. It's fantastic and crazy all at the same time. But again, if the wildest animals get the fuck out of Dodge, so should you. If it's something that looks like it can hurt you, you do not sit around sketching it. And if it's about to take off, so should you. He had plenty of signals, plenty of like bright lights in his face, signs saying, get the hell out. But if he did, today we wouldn't have the story that we do. So he kind of sacrificed a little bit of skin on it. But it is what it is. So today I was sitting around thinking, what haven't I played? What have I not played on this podcast? And I said, bagpipes. Geez, don't you wish right now you were wearing a male skirt? Really tight. Really, really tight. The next story is an example of how science continues to have half-baked ideas and just throws money out the window like it's not spending its own money, but taxpayer money. The European Space Agency is going to launch space debris collector in 2025. Now, when I first saw this, I'm like, well, I could see everyone being on board with this, right? Because we have all these thousands of satellites that are going to be launched up there by Elon Musk and SpaceX. You know, we're going to connect the entire planet together in one gigantic broadband web slinging, excuse you, bugs, web slinging craziness, which right now is blocking the stars from astronomers. So they're picketing all around the world, right? They got their pocket protectors. They're mad as fuck, and they're with their fancy coffees, and they're walking around with these little signs. They're picketing. They're picketing SpaceX because SpaceX didn't think about them when they were going to connect the world to broadband. Folks, shit happens. That's what happens when no one talks to anyone. Everybody makes these plans, but they don't talk to each other. There is a 4-armed robotic junk collector, this is the description, that's going to be launched into space by the ESA, the European Space Agency. And the first mission is to remove a specific item from orbit. $133 million for this craft. It's called Clear Space One. Now, and this is where this is where it just drives me banana. How much they spend on good ideas, but when they execute, it's stupid shit. It really is. Clear Space One is scheduled for 2025, $133 million. This thing, with its 4 arms, is going to grab one piece of junk. This piece of junk was actually put up there by ESA. So they're basically cleaning up their own shit. Oh my God, I almost choked myself just now. Yeah, sadly enough, they're paying $133 million to clean their own shit, but they're doing it. Listen, when you think about a 4-armed robot, you're thinking of like a sumo wrestler. Like they're putting some, sci-fi shit up there to grab onto this damn rope, this fucking rogue satellite, punch it in the gut, and toss that shit right down towards the planet, have it burn up in the atmosphere. That's what I envisioned, right? It was like some kind of fucking anime. That's what I felt it was. But that's not what's going to happen. The ESA Director General said this: imagine how dangerous sailing in high seas would be if all the ships ever lost in history were still drifting on top of the water. He says this is the current situation in orbit, and it cannot be allowed to continue. Now, I just found out today that you folks in iTunes, the connoisseurs of Apple, whenever I used to say, like I'm about to say in a few seconds, that you can actually look at a representation of what I'm talking about by looking at the episode image, I had no idea that the folks on Apple always saw the same UFO Buster Radio logo. So I could just imagine every time I said that, you guys were probably like cussing me. Oh, he put something, oh, motherfucker, he lied to us again. I actually didn't know that until today because I don't use Apple products or Apple anything. So I had no idea that iTunes was doing that. So we kind of look into how to fix that, right? Not really sure, I'm not that technical. Know what I'm saying? But for everyone else who it's not on Apple, sorry guys, who don't use iTunes, again, I'm sorry. If you look at the logo for this particular episode, you will see a image of what the junk around the planet looks like. Yeah, all those little dots is junk. But Clear Space One is going to go up and remove one of those dots. That dot is it's a satellite that was launched by Vega Launcher in 2013, and it's called the Vespa. It weighs about 100 kilograms and is around the size of a small satellite. The reason why they selected the Vespa is because they feel that it's real sturdy. So when this brute of a robot, the Clear Space One, grabs onto this sucker, it won't fall apart. Okay, it's not going to crumble. And you think, oh, that's cool. It's going to like grab onto. I'm telling you, I feel like in my head, I see like a wrestling robot just grab onto that motherfucker. And let's dispatch this shit real quick. Now, but basically what's going to happen is Clear Space, the probe, is going to grab onto Vespa, and then it's going to commit suicide. It's pretty much going to dump itself and Vespa into the atmosphere, and they're both going to pretty much self-destruct in the atmosphere. And there goes Clear Space One. So in 2025, out of all that shit that you see in that image, there's going to be one dot you can take off. Whoop, gone. And we will be better for it in some fucking way. I don't know how. And here's the thing. The launch is 2025. But somehow, can't someone that's designing this thing put a fucking foot, take out one of the arms, put a foot in it with a nice big boot, and let the fucking robot, the little sumo, kick the fucking thing out of orbit and let it come crashing down to the planet. It almost seems like it makes sense to me. It really does. Why can't they just put feet on it instead of 4 arms? Put 2 feet on it. Let it drop kick the thing back to the planet. Save itself. Then it can go on and take on another dot in space. I'm sure it's simplistic, right? I'm sure $133 million fucking dollars can buy you a fucking foot. All I'm saying. Put a foot on it. Or give it the ability to maybe go up and attach like a booster or something. A booster rocket or something to help it drag it down to the planet. But this fucking Clear Space can continue on and get rid of the next item. It just makes no sense to me. You know, you got 5 more fucking years. Come on, it's got to be a better design than freaking Harry Carey sumo wrestler. Come on. Somebody has got to be thinking clearer than this. But, you know, the good thing I can say is this time it wasn't NASA. This time it was ESA, so fuck. It's like a fucking disease. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's horrible. How does this happen? And who thought about this? I want to know the name of the person that actually came up with the design. Shit almighty, that is just crazy. Zachariah is on the chat box, and he's asking, where are the guys? Well, they're Fearsome 4, as I've come to know them. It's a little too early for them. They're usually on about between 9:30 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. So they'll catch the replay. Zach, you are here early. And yeah, this is not space junk recycling. This is space junk just going wild. It's just horrible. The idea, $133 million, come on, we could do something better than that. Way better than that. Check out this song. And by the way, if you want to know more about the junk, and if you're on iTunes and you want to see the image, click on the link that's in the description. It'll take you to the article. You can see that image of all the immense amount, the density of the junk around the planet. I don't know how the fuck Elon Musk thinks that he's going to be able to throw up those Starlink satellites and those things not get fucked up by junk. It's beyond me. But Elon's got a plan, right? So hell, it is what it is. He can do it. This one goes out to Iraq. I got somebody listening from Iraq, believe it or not. So check it out. Come on, bagpipes, Middle Eastern music. I mean, where else do you listen to or even heard of a ufology, UFO podcast that even plays music, but actually good music? Now, I've come to realize, my haste, that when I look at the data that's being presented to me for the podcast, and I say, Norway, Brazil, fucking Antarctica, wherever it's at, Canada, United States, I think those are pretty secure. I think Canada, Australia, United States, pretty secure that at the UK, that there's folks listening there. But then you get other ones like Germany, you get Japan, you get places in Africa. You also get New Zealand. New Zealand, I could say, is pretty safe as well. But then you get like Costa Rica, Brazil, all weird, random countries. And now I get Iraq. And I'm thinking, for the love of Pete, I think people are VPNing the podcast, so they're masking their location. That's what I feel like. So if you are in Iraq, if you really are in Iraq, send me an email and let me know. Are you a foreigner in Iraq, or are you an Iraqi citizen that's listening? And then, give me your story. Let me know. I'll give you a shout out. Just kind of Americanize your name a little bit. That way I can say it, because otherwise, it's not going to happen. No fucks given. This is the episode for today. I appreciate everyone that listens to the podcast and that comes in and takes part of my madness. We will have another, actually, through up until Christmas, which is like 2 more. We'll have like 2 more Thursday freakouts. Give people an opportunity to get on here and freak out like Dr. Green. And just like he did, just come in, tell me about what your experience is. Why is it that you're interested in the topic? Maybe a family member got probed once or twice. Maybe you probed them and said you were an alien. Or did you experience something? Did you see something? I just got an invite, believe it or not, to a group And it's not on Facebook. It's actually a group on their website where folks share their experiences. The information that I got was that there's over 10,000 people who are members of this particular group, and they share information, things that they went through, things that they've witnessed. And I'm pretty stoked about it. I can't wait to go on there and steal most of those people for myself. No, really. I like those groups because hopefully I can get someone to come on and speak about their experience, what they've done to resolve their feelings about it, the research they've done, and whether or not they still go through it. There's a lot of folks who kind of fail to understand that sometimes experiences go through these things in a lifelong situation, from being kids all the way up to adults, waking up with all these dreams, waking up with actually lifelike dreams, which a lot of people like to say they're night terrors, but also with markings and scratches and weird shapes on their bodies, and even feeling like they had something implanted on them. Those are the folks I like talking to. I like to hear about those experiences because it's a symptom of something that's happening. So whether you believe or not that it's purely psychological or that there is something else going on there, the only way to figure it out is to explore it a little more. Find out some things, ask some questions, get some answers. Because that's it. Outside of that, this is the end of the podcast. I thank you guys for visiting. Hopefully, I'll be on a little later tomorrow, Wednesday, and we'll have the Devastating Four on. And maybe they'll have some information to share with us. And again, don't be afraid to share with the podcast. That's what the podcast is here about. It's about the regular old blue-collar person who either stumbles across the topic, all of a sudden started hearing about the Nimitz incident and is stoked about it, or by and large is just afraid to be humiliated by others who think that this topic is a bunch of baloney. And if that's what you feel, then hey, tell them to go fuck off. You listen to a podcast led by somebody named Manny Moonraker, so you don't give two fucks about what they have to say. Ciao. Too much about